The elevator chimed like a warning bell as it opened onto the 42nd floor of Starling Dynamics, a floor reserved strictly for senior executive operations. It was a space of cold glass and sharper egos, a world where mistakes were rarely forgiven and memories were long. As the doors parted, a woman stepped forward with steady, unhurried steps. Her name was Amara Wynn, a 39-year-old black woman with a presence so controlled it seemed carved from steel. She didn't bow her shoulders, didn't avert her gaze, didn't apologize for existing in a place where people who looked like her were usually invisible unless someone needed a diversity brochure photo. The moment her heel crossed the polished floor, a shrill alarm blared. Head snapped up, phones lowered, and from the center of the open floor, a man rose with the affronted stiffness of someone convinced the world owed him respect. Ethan Krause, operations manager, known for his immaculate suits, impeccable grooming, and a reputation for keeping order, a phrase whose meaning changed conveniently depending on who he was speaking to. He pointed directly at Amara, his voice booming through the glass and marble space. "Security, code red access breach. Someone get her out of here now." Gasps scattered the room. Two security guards emerged from behind the reception desk, hands already hovering near the radios clipped to their belts. But Amara didn't flinch. She simply observed, calculating, not as a victim, but as someone watching a predictable script play out. Ethan approached her with long, theatrical strides meant to draw attention. He succeeded. "Oh no," murmured a passing analyst, clutching her tablet. "Who is she?" whispered another. Ethan reached Amara and folded his arms, every muscle in his jaw flexing with exaggerated authority. "You are not authorized to be on this floor," he declared. "This level is for executive meetings only. Whatever department you work in, housekeeping, facilities, catering, you need to go back down and come through the proper entrance." A murmur rippled. Some people looked uncomfortable, but nobody intervened. That was the thing about corporate cruelty. It rarely needed an audience to clap, only silence to survive. Amara's eyes, deep and composed, met Ethan's. "My name is Dr. Amara Wynn," she said calmly. "I'm here for the executive board meeting." Ethan let out a short, mocking laugh. "Right, and I'm the Queen of England." He waved at the guards. "Escort her out, and check her bag. We've had issues with people wandering into confidential areas lately." The pause before people was pointed, ugly, familiar. But Amara simply reached into her briefcase, her movements smooth and deliberate. "No need," she said. "I have the memo confirming my appointment." She handed him a printed document. Ethan snatched it with a sneer. "This could be forged," he said before even glancing down. Anyone could print a memo and slap their name on it. The receptionist, anxious, young, and clearly overwhelmed, looked between them as Ethan barked her name. "Laura, check the schedule. Tell me what was it? Dr. Wynn? Tell me if she's listed today." Lara's fingers shook over the keyboard. While she typed, Ethan resumed his interrogation, voice booming for the benefit of the watching crowd. "What exactly is your role here, Ms. Wynn? Maintenance? Office assistant? Or did you come to deliver something? Because you can leave it with reception." "I said Dr. Wynn," Amara corrected quietly. "And I'm an investment executive." Ethan's smile spread slowly, like oil across water, smug, condescending, certain of his own brilliance. "Of course you are," he said. "But the people meeting here today are the highest level partners in the company, not external consultants trying to get attention." The guards took a step forward, but before they reached her, a voice rang out from down the hall. A panicked voice. "Dr. Wynn." Heads turned as Jason Rivera, senior strategy analyst, sprinted toward them, out of breath and frantic. He skidded to a stop between the guards and Amara. "What the hell is happening?" he demanded, eyes wide. "Why is security involved?" Ethan lifted his chin. This woman was attempting to access the executive boardroom without clearance. Jason blanched. "Ethan, this is the consultant. The one the CEO personally brought in from Wynn Capital." The one who's been negotiating the $10 million acquisition. Silence crashed down. Ethan froze. The guard stepped back. Laura swallowed hard. Everyone stared. Ethan sputtered. That can't be. Her name wasn't. There was no memo. There was. Jason snapped. You just didn't check your email. We're your bias. He turned to Amara, face flushed with mortification. Dr. Wynn, I'm so sorry. They completely misunderstood. No, Amara said quietly. They didn't misunderstand. Her words landed with precision, sharp enough to cut. Jason hesitated, then nodded in grim understanding. Right, he whispered. Right. Shall we go to the boardroom? Amara asked. Yes, of course. Jason gestured forward and led her toward the frosted glass doors. Ethan remained rooted in place, the color draining from his face, because it was only now sinking in that the woman he tried to humiliate, the woman he nearly had removed by security, the woman whose presence he treated as an inconvenience, was the reason the company wasn't already filing for bankruptcy. And that was only the beginning. The boardroom of Starling Dynamics was a cavern of glass, chrome, and egos sharpened over decades of power. As Jason opened the door, all conversation ceased. 12 executives turned toward Amara. Some stood. Most did not. At the head of the table sat Gareth Holbrook, CEO, an aging man with a polished smile that never touched his eyes. Dr. Wynn, he said as he rose, we're honored to finally meet you in person. The room rustled with tension. Gareth extended a hand. Amara shook it. The handshake was firm, professional, overly warm. You've given us a lifeline, Gareth said with earnest gratitude. We realize how critical this acquisition is. Please take a seat. Amara placed her briefcase on the table and intentionally avoided glancing back at Ethan, who lingered outside the glass wall, watching like someone staring at the aftermath of their own car crash. The meeting began. Charts appeared. Numbers flowed. Projections were dissected. But beneath the financial jargon pulsed something toxic, something dark that Amara had already documented extensively during the past 90 days of observing the company's crumbling infrastructure. A culture rot. A rot so deep it was strangling the business from the inside out. She let the executives speak. Let them debate. Let them believe they still control the room. Because control was a temporary illusion. And tonight, everything would shift. For 3 months, Amara had quietly dissected Starling Dynamics' internal structures. Not the financials, not the legal risks. Those were child's play. What she studied was behavior, culture, patterns of discrimination woven through meetings, emails, and hiring decisions. A pattern of women talked over, minorities overlooked, ideas stolen, complaints dismissed, promotions withheld. Starling Dynamics was a profitable machine built on broken parts, a machine that had been warned repeatedly but never corrected itself. Amara had not come to save them. She had come to transform them. And the $10 million acquisition? That was merely the key. Because what no one in this room understood, not even the CEO, was that when capital hadn't bought 30% of Starling Dynamics, they had bought controlling interest. 51%. The board had signed. The documents were complete. And the only thing left was the reveal. The clock neared 6 p.m. as Gareth clasped his hands together. Well, he said with finality, I believe we're ready to sign the acquisition agreement. Executives nodded. Papers were prepared. Pens clicked. But Amara didn't reach for hers. Instead, she stood. There's something important we must address before signing, she said. Everyone looked up. Her voice carried an edge now, still calm, but charged. Before we finalize this partnership, I want to provide a brief audit summary of your internal culture. Ethan, standing outside the glass, stiffened. Gareth frowned. I don't think that's necessary. HR already. It is more than necessary, Amara said. She clicked a remote. The first slide appeared. Human Resources complaints dismissed without investigation. 5 years. The number glowed red. Murmurs erupted. Next slide. Hiring disparities, senior roles. White male hires, 87%. Minority hires, 4%. Another slide. Promotion bias, managerial level. A chart whose slope told a story so damning that several board members shifted uncomfortably. Gareth cleared his throat sharply. Dr. Wynn, this isn't appropriate, she finished. Neither is ignoring discrimination. The next slide displayed security footage. From that morning, Ethan's words echoed through the speakers. Escort her out. Check her bag. People have been trying to access confidential areas. The executives froze. The footage shifted to audio clips, anonymous testimonies Amara had collected. And then, emails from Ethan's account appeared on screen. Real emails. Real language. Real proof. Ethan burst into the boardroom. This is completely out of context, he shouted. Amara turned to him, finally acknowledging his presence. No, she said. This is context. She clicked again. The final slide appeared. Wynn Capital's acquisition. 51% ownership. Silence detonated. Gareth gasped. What? What do you mean 51%? We negotiated 30%. Yes, Samara said. For publicity. But the real deal was concluded with your board 3 hours ago. We now hold controlling interest. Several executives stood. Others sank into their chairs. Garrett's face drained of color. But why? Amara stepped forward. Because this company is rotting. Because your culture is destroying talent. Because people like Ethan have been allowed to wield unchecked power. She faced the table. Starling Dynamics needs a full restructuring. And starting today, it will have one. Her eyes moved to Ethan. You will be placed on immediate administrative leave, pending a conduct review. He sputtered. You can't do this. Gareth, tell her. Gareth didn't speak. He couldn't. Because he no longer had authority. No one did. Except Amara, who now owned the company. Ethan lunged forward. Not physically, but with desperation in his voice. This is revenge, he shouted. You planned this from the beginning. Amara shook her head. This morning wasn't part of the plan, but it confirmed everything I already knew. She clicked once more. A video played, not from today, but from 3 years ago. Ethan blocking another black woman at headquarters. 2 years ago, Ethan dismissing a harassment complaint with a smirk. 5 months ago, Ethan firing a Latino employee who questioned a supervisor's racism. Pattern. Proof. History. Ethan stared at the screen, his denial crumbling. You destroyed yourself, Amara said quietly. I just held up the mirror. The room didn't breathe. She continued. As controlling owner and incoming CEO of Starling Dynamics, effective immediately, we will implement. Gasps erupted. CEO. She had said CEO of their company, the company they once believed they controlled. They did not control it anymore. Not today. Not ever again. 6 months later, Starling Dynamics no longer existed. It had been renamed. Starling, Wynn Collective. The culture had transformed. Employees who had once kept their heads down now spoke freely. Talent that had been overlooked now led major divisions. Promotion criteria became transparent. Diversity metrics rose. Turnover plummeted. Productivity soared by 32%. Amara sat at the head of a circular conference table. No more hierarchical rectangle. Listening as her team presented. Jason, now Director of Organizational Integrity, spoke proudly about the new mentorship program. Across the city, in a quiet office of a nonprofit foundation, Ethan Krause sat across from a woman reviewing his application for a rehabilitation to work program. He had lost everything, but in losing everything, he had finally begun to understand. The woman smiled at him gently. It says here someone anonymously sponsored your enrollment. Ethan blinked. Ooh, she slid the paper toward him. His eyes softened when he saw the initials. AW. He exhaled, overwhelmed. Not forgiven, but offered a chance to become something better. Later that night, Amara stood alone in her new office overlooking the city. She touched the glass where the skyline glowed like a promise. This wasn't revenge. Revenge destroys. She had chosen rebuilding, because true power wasn't in humiliating those who underestimated you. True power was in changing the world that shaped them. And as she turned off the lights and walked out the door, her story had already begun to echo, quiet but unstoppable. A story that started the moment a man tried to stop her from entering a room where she already belonged. A story now told under the title,